Today is November the 26th, which is 86 days since we planted the seeds for the tomato plants and just about everything else. This week we had our first 100-degree Fahrenheit day, 38 degrees C, which killed all my lettuces in the NFT system. That's not unusual, but it is unusual to have one of those in November. Anyhow, we'll have a bit of a look around. It's now hot enough to show you how I've rigged the arches across the tomato plants down here. Basically it's just polyethylene pipe, and what I've done is I've fixed a couple of panels of carbonate roofing above the arches. The idea of that is to protect the tomato plants from our summer hailstorms, which will strip the tomatoes. And across the top of that, I've stretched from the gutters to the fence just some 50% white shade cloth. Now, it doesn't cover the whole thing. The idea is that the sun moves around, and that'll give the plants a bit of a break and hopefully cure a little bit of the sunburn that I got last year. This year's been hotter than last year so far, so I'm assuming that our 2 weeks of 42 degrees just after Christmas will be repeated this year. Anyhow, I'm hoping that saves my plants. I'll just show you the water catchment system that I've got out the back here. Basically all I've got is a little pedestal with 2 recycling wheelie bins. Those are actually blue ones that are designed for water. I had them out the front. What we've got is I've got a butt joiner. This one here fills first. Its overflow will go into that one, and I'm putting a couple of barrels down the side there. They'll catch overflow again. This is my design for a filter. That down pipe there is just draining the roof over the pergola, so it's only a 25-metre roof. But the idea of this filter is you'll notice the kink in the hose that feeds into the top of the wheelie bin. Now, no water is going to go into that wheelie bin until the water level in the bucket exceeds or is higher than the top of that kink. And you can see that I've got the outflow is about 3 inches above the bottom of the bucket. Now, the idea here is that this roof has got trees right outside the fence. There's all sorts of dirt and leaves on the roof, so it'll come down that pipe, it'll go into the bucket, the leaves will float on the top, the dirt should sink to the bottom. When the water level reaches the top of the kink in the pipe, it should start siphoning water out of the middle section of the bucket, and that should stop as soon as it starts sucking air 3 inches above the bottom, leaving the dirt down below, and at that stage the leaves shouldn't go up that narrow pipe, I hope. So far it seems to be working pretty good. It filters out around about 99% of the rubbish. But, that's how my little rain catchment system works. And down the bottom of the wheelie bins, I've simply tapped them and put in a cheap stopcock in each one. From that I can connect up a standard garden hose and run it wherever I want to in the yard, so I don't have to bucket water around the place. As my wheelie bins fill up, I can just feed it into the barrels for my emergency supplies. During January and February it doesn't rain very much here, so I'll probably need quite a lot. I can always bucket in from the front or pump it across the roof, but that'll do for the moment. Just have a look at some of the stuff in the NFT system. That's how I'm growing thyme. I simply put the seeds in the top of a couple of rockwool blocks, poke them in there with a toothpick, and that thyme, probably about a month old now, 3 weeks, a month, something like that. But it seems to be growing alright. There's no little rocks in that pot. no perlite, no nothing. They just seem to be doing alright, so I'll leave them go for the moment, see what happens with them. At some stage I'll probably put them in a dirt pot or a coir pot or something, but for the moment they're happy enough there. All of the suckers that I'm getting, I'm just planting them straight into some those little clay pebbles, and they seem to be taking. That's one from the yellow tomato that I just wanted to strike. Just here is a little basil that I've been growing, also with nothing in here. Doesn't show up very good. Nothing in here but a couple of rockwool blocks. There's no perlite and one of those clay pebbles. That's working fine. Seems to be growing okay anyway. Over here we have exactly the same thing, but in a slightly taller cup. But this time I did put in perlite. That seems exactly the same to me. There doesn't seem to be any difference. It doesn't seem to have affected anything to add the perlite. Over the back here, this is another little experiment where I've just put a couple of brandywines in a rockwool block in a 2-inch cup. That's got some basil there, just sitting in the rockwool block. That's poked directly into the. There's no bottom in the rockwool in the little plastic thing. It's just poking straight through the bottom, and it seems to work okay. Everything just grows down. That's well, not quite sure what that's a sucker from. But, it's working. In fact, it's coming out of this little plastic cup. Here I've got some green mignonettes, which I planted on the 6th of November. They wouldn't germinate unless I put the pebbles in there, which was interesting. They just sort of stayed there doing nothing for ages. As soon as I put the pebbles in and cut the light off, or cut the light a little bit, up they came. That's my grossless plant, which is growing under the roof of the pergola. It's developed a few fruit. That's my hand behind one, so they're about the size of a small apple. They'll be ready before Christmas, I presume. It's a great thing around here. Trying to get a tomato before Christmas is quite difficult. This is the yellow tomato. It's in full flower at the moment. That's about 2 feet high, I imagine. This yellow tomato is, well, this bit of pipe is 80 centimetres, 800 millimetres high, so I reckon that's about 780. 800 millimetres, that'll be about 2 foot 10, I suppose. The gross lesson, it's a bit bigger than 80 centimetres. Considering these are on, what, 90 odd days old, not even that, that's not too bad. The little indigo ruby, bang on 80 centimetres tall. I've got a few fruit on it. Oops, down the bottom here, they're not going to get too much bigger than that. I'm hoping that they taste rather nice. I've got a few suckers out of this one. We're currently growing 4 of them around the place. I'll let you know how it turns out. Over in the hydroponics, this mighty red's not quite at 80 centimetres, it's probably about 78 at the moment. It's getting a few flowers on it, no fruit. Oh yeah, it's got one small fruit there. It's around about, not quite as thick as my finger. That's doing pretty good for something that was pretty near dead in the supermarket. The 2 skinny little ox heart, they're at about the 70 centimetre level. They've got flowers, but no fruit yet. The Rouge de Mamande, that has more fruit than you can poke a stick at. It's around about 60 centimetres tall according to the measuring stick, but a very strong plant. Seems to be very attractive to bugs though, this one. Okay, that's all we've got for today. If you feel like having a yarn or you've got any questions, don't forget you can write to me an email. It's totaldale91@gmail.com. I don't do Google Plus, so while I appreciate your comments, I can't reply to them. Okay, see ya.